What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. DFS OG's back in the house talking week 8 of the NFL season. Can't believe we're almost halfway done, guys. So the season's flying by. We're here talking about Jimmy Butler pre-show, World Series going on. So a lot going on, but here to focus on week 8, give you some of our favorite plays, break down each and every game. Got 6 teams on bye this week, so we'll have a little more fun time here. A little time to talk about some other things. We don't have 16 games on the docket. I am Beer. Let me bring in my boys, Chop, Noto. Noto, I know you're tilting tonight. Jimmy Butler, the late scratch, so we won't spend too much time on that. Bagging on DraftKings for that. But how we doing, brother? How was week 7?
Yeah, I'm not only tilting tonight, I'm tilting week 7 as well. Jimmy Butler and Eric Decker combined for as many fantasy points as the three of us did. So, yeah, it was not a good stretch of DFS, but it comes in hot and cold streaks, so you just got to take the losses with the wins, I guess.
Yeah, we move on. Old BDD Decker took it to my lineups as well. Not only his wife, but my lineups got it too. So, Chop, how was week 7? Hopefully better for you than us two so far.
Oh no, that was unmitigated disaster right there, man. I've never missed so many players in one weekend of the NFL ever. That was just, I mean, we'll get it. Pour one out. You guys can do your pour one out when we come to it, because my list is so long that I'll just scratch them off as y'all go along, and I'll use my third option here, because there was a lot of guys I just totally, completely missed on, just airball.
How about we just pour one out for week 7 as a whole and move on to week 8? But we'll get to some pour one out. We'll have our third and wrongs, guys that, we've been wrong about, whether it was last week or early in the season. And, of course, end with our Faith Hill plays and our bold calls at the end. So let's dive in. Thursday night. Actually, let's get to our pour one out, Chop. Since you have about 50 of them, it sounds like, who was the worst? Who tore your lineups the worst in week 7?
Whew, that's tough to say, man, but I don't want to step on y'all's toes, but
there's plenty of options, Shop. I don't think you're going to step on anyone's toes here.
There was a lot of missteps, so I'll go with the guy that probably killed the most good lineups that I had. That would be Mariota. When I read the news on McCourty being out on Sunday morning, and I just thought, this is just too easy. He's just going to easily sit back there and pick this defense apart for 300 and a few touchdowns. So I loaded up on all the Mariota and glossed over all the solid quarterbacks, below him that could have really helped me cash some serious lineups, and watched him wreck them all. So I'm going to pour one out for Mariota this week, poor guy.
Yeah, that whole offense just looked terrible. And I bought in. Tennessee receivers are cheap. Wasn't really on them Sunday morning. Made a few swaps. Here I do. Land up on Decker, and the rest is history. So that one's too easy. Derek, what do you got for your pour one out for week 7?
Yeah, I was on the Titans too. I had Decker on DraftKings and Matthews on FanDuel, so I got burned by that. But my pouring out going to be Demaryius Thomas, 2 catches for 9 yards. And the worst part is he had an 81-yarder that was called back on a pass interference penalty. Oh, man. I was so happy on that during that play. I was like, oh, maybe this will finally be what I'm looking for to get my lineups going. And, yeah, you all know how that ended.
Yeah, so many options here. I'm with you, Chop. I got a laundry list of guys, and we'll hit them throughout the show, but I'm going to pour it out for my boy Brett Hundley. I'm a little too excited about him. I don't know if it was the Green Bay Packer in me or what, but 87 yards passing. I mean, when your running back has more yards than you have passing and he has on the ground, I mean, what the hell's going on? If he doesn't luck box into that touchdown, which we know he can run, maybe that's all he can do, but maybe we're not giving the New Orleans defense enough credit. They look good. Hundley did not look ready for this stage yet. I think the guy's got potential, but that was one I was wrong about, no doubt, in week 7, and cost me some money. I'll roll him in GPP. So let's move on. Week 8, enough negativity here. We're going to turn it around. We're going to get better. Let's start, though. Pretty ugly game, guys. So Thursday night, this may be one of those weeks where you play the slate, you avoid this game, because Miami, Baltimore, Chop, not a lot here in my book. What do you got in this one?
Yo, I don't have anything. I mean, except for maybe the Baltimore defense. If I do the Monday-Thursday show with Tony, and we try to analyze that Monday-Thursday game, and yeah, we both said the same thing, which was load up on your Philadelphia, Washington players and fade this game except for the defense. And if you have to play somebody, Javorius Allen if you don't have to play anybody, don't play anybody. This game is terrible right here, so I don't like anybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. Derek, any interest in, say, a Kenny Stills? Last 5 games with Matt Moore has touchdowns in all those games. He's cheap, but not a great matchup here with Baltimore. So any interest there, or is this a complete fade for you as well?
Yeah, complete fade for me. It's finally a game that you can feel good about joining the Thursday contest and then just letting everyone take their shots here and there. Let them pay for the rake in this one. I'm fine with the Ravens defense if you want to go that route. Looks like Jay Cutler's going to miss. Devontae Parker, outside shot of playing, so if he's out, that's just another hit to their offense. Jarvis Landry's on pace for 181 targets, which is pretty ridiculous, but I don't want to play him against this Ravens defense.
Yeah, so play the slate, play the tournaments, play the cash games, and hopefully you see, you'll be surprised how many stacks you might see of this game. Even in your cash games, you might see your 2 or 3 guys from this game. So definitely one to load up on the slate, avoid the game. Let's move on. Another London game this week. What the hell is it with all these London games? Is it just me, or is there like triple what there normally is? So Vikings, Browns, another one. I don't know how exciting this is. The people in London get one of our worst teams in Cleveland. Minnesota should handle this one easily, Derek. But any plays if you're playing this slate? Again, it's not going to be on the main slate, but if you're playing this Thursday to Monday slate, any options on Minnesota that are standing out?
So Cleveland has a pass funnel defense. They are ranked 3rd in DVOA against the run and dead last in DVOA against the pass, which is why we liked Decker and Mariota and those guys last week. So I don't like Latavius Murray. I think Jared McKinnon is sneaky. He's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Other than that, I'm fine with Thielen. I'm fine with Diggs if he ends up making it back, and Rudolph as well. But, none of these guys are going to be core plays for me. On the Brown side, just not anything to like here. Kaiser's looked terrible. Hogan's looked terrible. Kessler came in. He looked okay, but then ended up throwing a couple interceptions. So there's really nobody on the Browns that I want to look at right now.
Yeah, my boy Crowell Chop thought he might get it going there. Actually hit double digits on DraftKings. So at least we're progressing somewhere. But against this Minnesota defense, I think a complete stay away here for Cleveland. What interests you on the Minnesota side of things if you're playing this slate?
Yeah, nothing for Cleveland. And, man, it's too bad this isn't on the main slate because I'd lock in Adam Thielen, and I would have played all that Adam Thielen this week, and I think he has a big game, and I'll probably avoid the rest of these guys, but I think Thielen has a huge game.
All right, let's hit that main slate. Like you said, Derek, 9 games on this main slate. So limited player pool this week with all the buys and the London game, Thursday, Sunday night, Monday night. We don't get on the main slate. So let's focus on these 9 games. For the people playing on DraftKings, FanDuel, you do get that Sunday nighter. But let's start with Oakland and Buffalo. We got the Raiders coming off a big emotional win, Chop, traveling east, 1 o'clock start. Buffalo at home, we know is a tough place to play. Feels like a trap spot for me, for Oakland. And a lot of people are going to be on Carr, be on Cooper. Look at these running backs for value with Marshawn Lynch out. I don't know that I'm going to go there. I think this could be a letdown spot coming off that emotional win. So agree, disagree, and then break down the rest of this game.
Yeah, this is a tricky game right here. I'm not super enthused about this. Buffalo's been a really good defense this year. They keep on performing pretty well. I know they were had a little bit of a rough outing against Tampa here. Tampa made a good comeback this past weekend, but for the most part, they've been really good this year. So I'm not sure how much Oakland I want. I'm not too enthused about those running backs who practically split everything right down the middle anyway. So it's tough to figure out which one you want to go with there. And then on the other side, man, McCoy is good, the best player on the offense, but he's up now to 8.7. He was 7.4K last week. Huge price jump. Not enthused about that. I'd like to take a pass catcher against Oakland, but they've got none on this team that interests me at all. So this may be one of those games you just kind of gloss over and fade and don't look back.
Yeah, McCoy's price, he's right there. He's only 500 below Elliott now, only 600 behind Le'Veon Bell on DraftKings. So definitely got that price hike. So Derek, same question to you. Is this a trap spot for Oakland? Are you more confident in their offense here going to Buffalo? And then McCoy and the Bills, what are we doing there?
Yeah, this one's pretty ugly. Not a ton of interest in the Raiders. After Marshawn Lynch was kicked out last week, they pretty much split the snaps between DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard. Looks like Washington's kind of going to be the goal line guy. He got 2 carries inside the 5-yard line. So if I'm giving an edge to one, I'll probably end up using Washington. This isn't a great matchup against the Bills' run defense. Amari Cooper, I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards him after he just went bonkers on that Thursday night game. For me, I just want to see more than one before I go back to him. Pretty good Bills pass defense anyway. On the other side of the ball, I do have some interest in McCoy. I mean, he just gets so much work out of the passing game, averaging almost 7 targets a game. We know Tyrod doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, and he's finally getting those runs inside the 10. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. So, I mean, he's going to be a workhorse, and I don't mind him even at a slightly inflated price point of $8,700. Is Deontay Thompson the best receiver on the Bills all of a sudden?
I mean, that's not hard, but yeah, he certainly, or he likes playing against Tampa Bay. I mean, that's he just gets it done against Tampa Bay no matter what team he's on, he puts up numbers. So that's a sad state of affairs in that receiving core. And as far as Oakland goes, I know Cooper got 19 targets last week, but maybe a good week to go back to Michael Crabtree. Everybody's going to look at Cooper. They're going to lock him in those lineups. So Crabtree is still there. So an interesting game. Not a ton here. Derek, I think I'm more on your side as far as LaShawn McCoy goes. I think he's still a solid option, even with that price hike. So anything else here before we move on to Indy and Bengals?
You guys have any Tyrod interest?
I don't.
Not really.
Yeah, I got a little, 5,900, but I just wish he had somebody to throw the ball to.
That's it. When you're throwing at Deontay Thompson and Nick O'Leary, it's hard to get excited about a guy. So, all right, next game, another game. It should be ugly here. Colts traveling to Cincinnati. Colts team total, by my math's about 16. So Cincinnati defense got to be in play here, Derek. And a certain fellow we bring up every week told me I can't play A.J. Green at home, but this is the Colts. I'm playing some damn A.J. Green at home. So Colts, Bengals, what do we got?
Yeah, it's another ugly one as far as the road team goes. Not a ton of interest in the Colts. Although it's worth pointing out, Marlon Mack outsnapped Frank Gore for the first time this season, 32-22 last week. Could see it changing in the guard there. He's only 4,000. He's kind of been the go-to guy in the pass game too. So in a game where they're trailing by 10, I think you could certainly do worse. T.Y. Hilton, typically better indoors. I like the price tag of $5,600. And he's coming off a couple of bad games, but I don't think I can go there. On the other side of the ball, love A.J. Green. Not worried about the home splits here. I mean, they're pretty much no better matchups for a receiver than the Colts. Vontae Davis, even if he's active, I mean, he hasn't been nearly as good as he used to be. They should just shred this defense. And then I don't know what Marvin Lewis is doing. He keeps starting Jeremy Hill in each half because Joe Mixon's a rookie and he hates rookies or something. I don't know what he's doing, but I do like Mixon at 4,700. I think that's definitely playable.
Chop, got to be time to move on from Marvin Lewis. So hit on that if you want to, but I like some Andy Dalton too. There's a stat out there, familiar opponents he doesn't do very well against. Teams not so familiar, which the Colts would fall in that category, tends to do a lot better in. So 5,700, Dalton Green stack. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it at all. So that's where I would go. And Mixon, I might sprinkle in some Mixon, although, obviously I'd like to see him get a little bit. I'd like to see him dominate the snaps, of course, man. And yeah, Marvin Lewis, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's time to move on from that old geezer. I mean, you could say that for several teams in the NFL. Just move on, man. Some of these guys just aren't really coach worthy anymore, man. They're too old and they're outdated. Look at some of the young coaches in the league are crushing it, man. So I don't know, man. As long as he's going to run Jeremy Hill out there and Gio Bernard and not give his best player in the backfield the chance, then there's a huge red flag on him. And on the other side, the Cincinnati defense is a lot better now that they're a little bit healthier and they got Burfict back. So I don't know how much I could trust any of these guys on Indianapolis. T.Y., I can't trust him on the road like this. He's better indoors. This isn't indoors, so I probably may gravitate a lot more to Cincy's defense than I would any player from Indianapolis.
Yeah, they might get shut out again. I mean, they looked horrible, gave up 10 sacks, I think it was, to that Jacksonville defense. So another tough spot here going on the road. That was at home. Now they're going to Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, my favorite defense of the week early on here. Tuesday, Wednesday. So next game, we got the Los Angeles Clippers, Chargers going to New England to face the Patriots. I'm going to get my third and wrong out of the way. And I may have said this last week. I don't even remember. But if so, I'm going to say it again. I was dead wrong on Mike Gillislee, guys. I was a huge fan. Loaded up on him in my drafts everywhere early in the season. Things were looking great. Now, not so much. He's the fourth running back on that team. So, Chop, break down that running back situation. Deion Lewis looks great, but with 4 guys getting carries, can we go there? Is it all the New England passing game? The Chargers have any hope in this game, and how do they do it?
Man, I don't know what happened to Gillislee. Like all that,
he's not good.
That preseason hype, but he came in the very first game and busted off all those touchdowns. It looked great, but then after that, he just completely fell off the face of the earth for him. They're not even giving him a chance. But now you drop a fumble and you're really in trouble with Belichick. So I wouldn't doubt that somewhere down the season as it goes on, New England's defense is settling in a little bit. They've actually allowed, they've been pretty good the past couple of weeks in points allowed. So if they can get it under control, maybe he gets back to being a decent touchdown vulture. But until then, this backfield is not. I don't want any part of these 4 or 5 guys that they try to run out every week. So don't want any part of that. But obviously, Brady's going to drop back and find the best matchup he can with his receivers. He's got about 4 or 5 of them to choose from, so it's going to be tough on which way you want to go there. So I don't know. Brady's a good play. Pair him with somebody. Take a guess at which one is not going to be drawing Casey Hayward, and you should be all right. And on the other side, I actually think that L.A. can get some things done here on offense. I think they got Melvin Gordon, who's going to make up a lot of value here in the passing game, so I don't mind him. Rivers is just always steady. I don't mind Rivers to drop 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game, and he does it in a really workmanlike fashion. And Keenan Allen, probably due for a nice little double-digit reception week. Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry has been looking a lot better lately, so I think this has a potential to be a nice offensive game.
All right, Derek. Chop stacking up the Chargers, liking a lot of Chargers there. And Melvin Gordon, an interesting one. Another guy I had a lot of faith in last week and just didn't get it done. Didn't look good. A false start he had. Just and Eckler comes in, steals the touchdown. So, the volume is there. I like the point, Chop, that he's going to be involved in the passing game. But 8,100, Derek. Can we go back to Melvin Gordon?
I think you can go back to him in tournaments. After a lot of people were burned last week, I do think his ownership will be relatively low. For me, I'll gladly pay $600 more for McCoy, but Gordon's a beast when he's getting those targets. I'm interested in the passing game. I like Phillip Rivers, pairing him up with Keenan Allen. I think that's going to be one of my favorite wide receiver quarterback stacks of the week. Hunter Henry, he's outsnapped Antonio Gates 160 to 96 in the last 3 games. So they've moved on, and he's starting to play some really good football. 4,800, probably going to be the cheapest we see him moving forward. So I think you can buy on him as well. For the Patriots, that backfield is really messy. Deion Lewis, he's second in the league in terms of yards after contact for running backs. So he's really playing well right now, but he's just not getting enough snaps for me to pull the trigger here. As far as his wideouts, Tom Brady loves to distribute the ball. Between Gronk, Hogan, Cooks, and White, they all have between 45 and 47 targets this season. So it's hard to really pair him up with anybody. If we do hear that Casey Hayward is going to shadow Cooks or Hogan, I'm fine using the other one. Fine using Gronk, but again, I just don't feel comfortable, stacking Brady with any of them. So, I like the offense as a whole, but there are too many guys that's getting the ball.
Yeah, you run Brady out there by himself. I'm not going to get everybody excited, say Brady naked, but that's what the kids like to say. But I think that may be the play here. Run it back with some Chargers on the other side. So let's move on. Next game, we got the Bears. One of the best defenses in the league, really, at this point. Going to New Orleans, a big test for the Bears defense. Saints obviously coming off that big win in Lambeau Field, Derek. So is it another all-out Saints assault? We've seen the offense get narrowed down to Ingram, Kamara, Thomas, Ginn, and obviously Drew Brees. Bears side of things, we know what they want to do. They want to run the ball 700 times with their running back, Jordan Howard, but are they going to be playing from behind here? Any interest in the Bears offense here? Trubisky threw 7 times last game, still managed to cross 100 yards, Brett Hundley, with 7 attempts. So Bears, Saints, what do you got, Derek?
Yeah, they're not going to be able to run that game plan out this week. I think he's only had 2 completions to his receivers over the last 2 games. I mean, they gotta let him air it out a little bit in this one. They're 9-point underdogs. So if you're looking for, sneaky something, I mean, I don't mind targeting the passing game here. But for me, it's all about the Saints. The Bears defense, they've been good, but they're a lot better at home than they are on the road. Mark Ingram has 56 touches and 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. And there's room for both of these guys. I mean, Kamara still had 67 snaps in the last couple games. He's looked awesome when he's gotten in there. He's a big part of the passing game, averaging 6.5 targets a game. Breeze $7K at home, feels really cheap. I like pairing him up with Michael Thomas. The Bears don't allow a lot of deep plays, but I think Thomas is just he's going to get 10 to 12 targets, and he's going to break out one of these weeks. So I really like him in this spot.
All right, Chop, Bears, Saints, a lot to get to here. What do you got?
Yeah, so the Bears, probably a fade for me. Jordan Howard looks great, but, if you get behind in this game, then we might not see a whole lot of straight-up carries from Jordan Howard. So I don't even want to touch the Bears. On the other side, New Orleans at home is always going to be good. But, man, Chicago's been really good in the secondary. Just really limited opposing passers, and they faced some really good ones this year. So I just don't know if I'm 100% on board with a whole lot of Drew Brees. I do like Michael Thomas a little bit, and I guess you could play some Mark Ingram. But I think the Bears are a little bit underrated in the secondary, so I don't know how much. I guess I would lean towards Michael Thomas as my favorite play in this game. But at 7K, I don't know if I'll have a whole lot of Drew Brees. I probably want to go back down to some cheaper quarterbacks this week.
And the price going up. Ingram's up to 74, Kamara up to 59, Thomas 76. You got to pay for these guys. So love that price tag on Ted Ginn. 4,700. I know, Derek, you mentioned it. They don't give up a lot of big plays, but he's seen a lot of intermediate targets in this offense too, and actually catching the football, which is surprising. So I think Ted Ginn, decent value on this Week 8 slate. Next game for us, guys, Falcons, Jets. Falcons looked horrible, Chop, in New England. Julio salvages day at the end, but that offense just can't get out of its own way. So now they go to a Jets team that's playing with confidence, playing well. They're at home. How does this game play out?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we only really have to go back to earlier this week 1 or week 2 when we were doing this podcast and we were making fun of Steve Sarkisian for not even being able to get it done in college. Well, he can't get it done in the pros, that's for sure, man. He's pretty terrible at what he does. So I don't know what you do here. The running game doesn't look good. I don't think I want any part of that. Julio's the only offensive piece on this Atlanta team that I would even vaguely think about taking this week. So Julio it is, and he still has a reasonable price tag. So I may lock into him now. He had a great garbage time, fourth quarter, against New England, or else we'd be cussing him too. He'd be on that pour one out list, man, because he was looking terrible for a while, and he got some good garbage time. So maybe he gets it again this week. But on the other side, the Jets, man, I'm not going to use my third and wrong just yet, but I was definitely wrong on this offense. They just keep finding ways to get it done and score points. McCown actually looks very competent out there, and he's making Robbie Anderson and Jermaine Kearse look pretty decent. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins looks like a freaking okay. I'm not going to use my third. I might have to use my third and wrong on that guy, man. I've cussed him.
Keep hopping around it, man. Just get it out of the way.
I had another one, but I'm going to have to drop my third.
Yeah, you can use more. We got time.
If you got more, third and wrong on ASJ, man. He was so overhyped in college, and he always disappointed, and then he disappointed his entire NFL career and never could get it together. Man, McCown's making him look like a Pro Bowler this year. He looks great. So still under 5K for a tight end who's catching touchdowns every week, gets plenty of looks down there every week. Yeah, I was wrong on him, and I think you could run him out there as long as this price tag stays reasonable. So, and I wouldn't even touch the running backs in this game because it's such a committee over there, Forte and Powell. But I don't mind Seferian-Jenkins in the passing game here.
Yeah, you wish you could use a running back here. Atlanta really struggles with pass catching running backs, and Powell, Forte, McGuire can all catch the ball, but when they're all healthy, you really can't roll out a guy in a three-way committee. And that was a hell of a catch, though, by Julio. That was a man catch in the end zone, the way he tore that ball away. So good to see a little fire there. We'll see if it carries over. All right, Derek, same question to you. Can Atlanta rebound? Can they go in, or the Jets surprise them here at home?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Falcons could easily be 1-5. They lost to the Bears when Jordan Howard dropped that touchdown at the end of the game. They beat the Lions, they beat the Bears. They beat the Lions on that Golden Tate touchdown where he was down at the half-inch line. So, I mean, they could easily be 1-5 this season. Their defense is just terrible. But I do think their offense is in a pretty decent spot here. I know we'd like them at home a little bit more. 8,400 for Julio seems like a really good buy. They finally gave him some targets last week. Granted, it was in garbage time, but maybe they'll figure out that when they throw it to him, good things can happen. That touchdown was just awesome. So I love Julio here. I'm not interested in any of the running backs really. On the Jets side, yeah, this is a really good spot for them. We usually see them with implied totals of 14, 15, 16. It's up to 21 this week. We know the Falcons, they struggle against the run. They struggle against the pass. They have the 5th worst adjusted sack rate. So McCown should have all day to throw the ball. I like the ASJ call. I don't mind Curse a little bit. And yeah, don't target the running backs, but they're going to get a lot of pass catching work. So that's going to help McCown's floor a little bit as well.
Josh McCown just keeps getting it done. 25 fantasy points each of the last 2 games. So only 5,600 here. Like you said, Derek, that Atlanta defense hasn't been great. I was surprised. Falcons 4.5-point favorites here. And I think Jets either keep this game close or they may win this game outright. So McCown certainly a prime target if you're looking to save at quarterback. All right, let's go on. Let's talk about maybe the MVP of the league, Derek, Carson Wentz. Looking outstanding out there against Washington. Now he's got San Francisco coming in who just gave it up to Chops boys. Dak, Zeke, they all had big games in that one. So how much Wentz is too much Wentz here? Are you worried about the blowout, or are you just roll him out there and have full confidence in him?
I think you got to roll him out there. 7,200 is a lot, but very playable on FanDuel at 7,900. I think he'll probably end up being my cash game quarterback. The Niners are a lot worse against the pass than they are against the run. And I don't really trust any of the running backs from the Eagles anyway. Still a time split there. So I like Wentz. The Niners are actually ranked first in DVOA against tight ends, and they've allowed the fewest targets to tight ends this season. Ertz has been a monster, but $7K for him seems a little bit pricey. I think this is a great spot for Alshon Jeffrey to get going. Kind of grease the squeaky wheel. Didn't get much targets last week against the Redskins. So I love the Wentz to Jeffrey combo this week. And then on the other side, yeah, we all expected Beathard to go to his boy George Kittle last week, but he only ran 17 pass routes, only saw 2 targets. Was one of the many guys that disappointed last week. So I don't really know what to expect there. He's just spreading the ball around. Garcon, Goodwin, all these guys are getting, quite a few targets. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really love anyone on the Niners, but I do love Wentz and Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm all out on the Niners. I'm going to add Nelson Aguilar in. San Francisco, the worst team in the league against the slot position, and Aguilar 5 touchdowns in the 7 games. So has looked good, continues to get it done. If they lock up Ertz, it's going to be Jeffrey, it's going to be Aguilar. So, Chop, same question. Carson Wentz, got to be right up there as one of the top quarterbacks of the week.
Yeah, he's got to be. So the only thing I would fear is a major blowout here, and this is almost a 2-touchdown spread, and so that's really it's a little risky business in the NFL for your quarterback, but he'll probably be able to get it all done in the first half anyway and make you feel pretty good about that price tag anyhow. So I think you got to roll him out there and feel like he's one of the best on the week. Even with that big spread at home, it's tough for me to trust any one of these 4 running backs they have now, and seem like they're really fine with using any of them at any time, to be honest with you. So that's a little bit shaky. And Ertz, the best tight end in the game right now. Heavy price tag, but I guess if you want it to be contrarian in tournaments, because I don't think he'll be popular at this price tag, you go that route. And I'm going to go back to Alshon again this week. And on the other side, San Francisco, I don't know, man. I don't really feel like I like any of them. This is a really tough defense at home. They just kind of did a pretty good job on Kirk Cousins outside of a couple garbage time drives. So if they can do that to them, I think he can shut down C.J. Beathard, who didn't look very impressive at home against Dallas. Garcon's not the kind of receiver that's going to torch this secondary. It's going to take a speedster, kind of like Marquise Goodwin. So if I was going to trust anybody on this whole offense, it would be Goodwin this week.
Yeah, Eagles D, top price defense on both sites when you're looking at the main slate. So Wentz is interesting. Derek, you mentioned the FanDuel price. He's kind of down there, 7,900. I think that's going to make him super popular. But DraftKings, it's tight. Brady 76, Dak 73, Wentz 72, Breeze 7,000. As crazy as it sounds, I think Carson Wentz could be contrarian on DraftKings. If people are going to pay 72 for Wentz, why not go up and pay 400 more for Tom Brady? So, what do you guys think of that? Will he still have traction? Will he still have ownership coming off of that big game, Derek?
I think it'll depend on the value. I mean, there's not a lot of great value so far, so I think a lot of people will look to pay down a quarterback like they do on most weeks. And if that's the case, I think we could see, 15%, maybe less on Wentz.
Chop, what do you think?
Yeah, I think him and Brady are both. First of all, in the NFL over there on DraftKings, quarterback ownership is spread out so much unless there's like an obvious guy like when Deshaun Watson was super underpriced and had those big games in a row. People flocked on him one week. Otherwise, it's pretty spread out anyway. So a guy like Wentz and Brady being high priced are going to be contrarian anyway. So I think it's both great options in tournaments.
All right, Wentz is 7th on FanDuel, so I think he stands out like a sore thumb over there. But DraftKings, tighter pricing, prices are closer together. I think he's more of an interesting play over there as far as tournaments go. All right, let's move on to our next game. We got Carolina and Tampa Bay, two teams that need a win. Cam Newton came out, started the season horrible, Chop, picked it up there for a few games, right back in the shitter against the Bears, and now goes to Tampa Bay, who he should be able to light him up. What the hell are we doing with Cam Newton? Other side, a team we didn't expect to do well in Buffalo went out and put up some numbers there. So do they continue their role here against a pretty good Carolina defense? So two Jekyll and Hydes, Chop. What are we doing with Carolina and Tampa Bay?
Yeah, it's one of those games. If you can guess it right, then I guess that's going to be go a long ways and you win in a tournament this week. There's games like that every week. This could turn into an offensive shootout just based on what we've seen this year, or this could turn into a real nasty slugfest where there's not a lot of fantasy points. So for me, I guess Tampa Bay, I'm ready to go ahead and write them off as a bad defense. I was kind of holding out hope until they got healthier. They were missing a ton of defensive starters there for a while, but as they keep coming back healthy, they keep on giving up points. So I guess I'm ready to write them off as a good defense. And Carolina, if Cam can't get it done here, then he is Jekyll and Hyde, man. He is up and down. So I guess you could load up on Cam. And I like Funchess this week a little bit over Benjamin. I think more people would flock to Benjamin. So it makes me sway toward this might be a Funchess week. McCaffrey's always in play on a PPR with his 10 receptions for 50 yards. That's what he does. So that's not bad for 6.2K. You could live with that. And for Tampa Bay, I'm ready to fire them all up, man. I'll take Winston. I'll take Doug Martin, Mike Evans. I think they can all have a big game at home against Carolina.
I like the Funchess call. He's been getting the more consistent targets, 8 or more targets each of the last 5 games. Benjamin's are kind of all over the place. So I think Benjamin maybe gives you more touchdown upside, but Funchess been the more consistent option. So, Derek, your turn. A lot here. I think this is an intriguing game. Are you loading up here, or is it more of a stay away for you?
Yeah, I really like this game. We have one team that can't run the ball in the Panthers, and then the Bucks, they have a tough run matchup against the Panthers. They're ranked 5th in run DVOA this season. So I think we could see both teams air it out here. As far as the Panthers go, I mean, their running backs are averaging 2.8 yards per carry, and they have yet to score a rushing touchdown. So I expect a lot of Cam Newton in this one. I like McCaffrey. He's on pace for 100 catches this season. Just PPR monster. He needs to find the end zone to really pay off that price, but I mean, he just has such a high floor that I think you can play him every week. I like Benjamin. I like Funchess. Fine with either one of them. This Buccaneers secondary has just been really bad this season. Hargraves it sounds like they're moving him to the slot now because he's been so bad. And I think you can just stack up that side of the ball. For the Bucks, I like their passing game as well. Jameis Winston doesn't seem like he's been playing that great this season, but in 4 of the 5 games when he's been healthy, he's had at least 320 passing yards. 6,100 is more than reasonable for him. Panthers haven't been great against wide receiver 1, so I like Mike Evans quite a bit. And then O.J. Howard, I mean, he just broke out with that monster game. Last week, he ended up playing 69% of the snaps. Do you have any interest there, or is that kind of chasing?
A little bit. I really like Mike Evans. I mean, the one OJ Howard touchdown, he's running down the field by himself. Like any of us probably would have scored on that one. So, I mean, that it's hard to give him those 2 touchdowns. He had them. We don't like to take things away, but I don't want to draw too much of that. But Evans, I think, is my guy here. 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games, 17 or more fantasy points, 3 of the last 4 games. So getting it done, getting a ton of looks, and this could turn out to be both passing games. So no interest for me really in O.J. Howard. Chop, what do you think? Big pedigree coming out of Alabama. Is it a fluke, or is this guy starting to turn it on?
No, he's going to have those weeks like once every 4 or 5 weeks or what have you. That's just I think we see the blueprint of what he's going to do. They're going to pepper Evans and everybody else, and then when everybody and Cameron Brate, and when everybody forgets about Howard, he's going to run up the sidelines for 50 yards. It's actually the same thing he did at Alabama. Never caught passes like for like 6 or 7 games, didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden you get a game and everybody forgets about him, and boom, 2 long touchdowns in a game. That's what he does. So I think he'll be a good GPP play moving forward. I wouldn't put the guy in any cash games at all ever.
All right, I think people are going to go there. Just people that look at box scores, they see that number, they're going to go back to him. So I think there's other ways we can go at tight end, but points viable. Going to have some big games. I don't know if he's going to do it 2 weeks in a row. All right, Chop, this game is very interesting. Just as a football fan, you get Deshaun Watson, who's been incredible, now gets a test. Going to Seattle, playing the Seattle defense. As a football fan, I want to watch this game. As a DFS player, how much can we invest here in Deshaun Watson? I don't think he'll have any ownership. Does he continue his success here in Seattle? Is it a stay away? And the other side, same thing. Russell Wilson's looked great. We know he turns it on late in the season. Houston defense missing key components, and Watt merciless. It's all about the quarterbacks here for me. DFS wise, do you trust Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, this is a big game. I mean, I guess we're gonna find out a lot of answers to some of those questions. I know Deshaun's looked great, but man, I still have question marks about some of the stuff and some of the competition he's done it against. So I still go back to that very first game he started against Cincinnati, where he looked terrible except for a long touchdown run. So I mean, if he can do it at Seattle, then yeah, I mean, we can just go ahead and anoint him the next greatest thing, I guess, in fantasy, because he's looked fantastic. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Seattle shut him down. But at the same time, they're coming off of a bye week, so I always favor those offenses coming off of a bye week. So it's going to be interesting like that. DeAndre moves around so much, not going to have to worry about Richard Sherman if they don't want him to. And so he'd be my preferred target with Watson if that's where I was going to go. Wouldn't trust the running game in this game against Seattle, so wouldn't do that. Wouldn't trust Seattle's running game against Houston because they're split carries. But I think Wilson to Baldwin is an elite connection this week. And just like last week against the Giants, I also wouldn't doubt he takes some shots downfield to Tyler Lockett. And if he connects on one, he's going to make your day. Now, the one guy that I don't want any part of is Jimmy Graham, because I've had about enough of him. And I'm not, I mean, he's dropping touchdowns last week, right and left. I don't want any part of him anymore until that price tag drops to about $3,000.
Yeah, and I had him in a lot of lineups, watching him drop those touchdowns. He finally got one, but could have been a huge day, and I'm with you. It's tough to really trust him right now. Just not looking like the guy he was in New Orleans. So he'll get his occasional touchdown, but you're paying a big price on him. So pretty much a pass for me right now as well. Derek, hit on these quarterbacks. I think they're interesting. They're right in that kind of mid-range where people may go up to the Brady's, Wentz's, Prescott's, go down to, say, the Josh McCowns of the world. You got Russell Wilson, you got Deshaun Watson right in that mid-range, 6,500, 6,400. So you trust Watson, and does Russell Wilson keep it going here against Houston?
Give you an idea of how bad the rest of my lineup was last week. I got a 30 burger from Russell Wilson in my cash games and still didn't cash anywhere.
So we're going to pour one out for your cash game lineups.
Yeah. Jimmy Graham, luckily he got that touchdown because, he was just wide open on that one down the sideline. Would have gone for at least 40 yards, and, he just not even close, just right through his hands.
He looked like he had bricks for him. Like, how do you just clanks off his hands? Like, how does that happen?
I don't know, but I like this Seahawks offense at home. They can't run the ball, and the Texans are really good at defending tight ends. So I love Wilson and pairing him up with his receivers. I'm fine with Baldwin, fine with Lockett. I'm not really sure what happened with Baldwin and his offensive coordinator or whatever he was. Did you guys see that on the sideline?
Oh yeah, and after that happened, they tore it up. He was getting all the looks, all the touchdowns. So maybe a little squeaky narrative there as well.
Yeah,
squeaky
maybe a
wheel.
little threat will get you a couple extra targets. But for the Texans, I mean, they're getting a lot of respect from the sports books. Only 5.5-point underdogs. I thought that number would be higher. They are coming off the bye, but I just don't trust rookie quarterback on the road in this situation. The best way to beat the Seahawks is on the ground, and I don't really see Lamar Miller doing that. So Texans are a stay away from me, but I'll be loading up on the Seahawks passing game.
Yeah, it's an interesting game, no doubt. So let's move on. I think highest total of the week here. We got Dallas, we got Washington. Derek, 51 is the total as of now. So as I mentioned earlier, Dallas went into San Francisco, got it done, put up huge numbers. We know Zeke is in this game. Do we go back to the well on Zeke, on Dak? How does Washington respond at home as well? Coming off that loss in Philadelphia, home game in the division, pretty much a must-win. Really like Kirk Cousins here. How does this game play out for you?
Yeah, this should be a fun one for sure. Dak, no sex. Prescott had the biggest fantasy outing of any quarterback last week, so I guess not having sex is working for him. Certainly dedicated to his craft if he's not having sex.
Kudos to him because I'm not dedicated enough to any craft to go no sex.
Yeah, exactly. So I like Dak here. 7,300 is a lot for me, though. Fine going back to Zeke. I mean, he's just a beast. And they're finally giving him the ball in the passing game a little bit. Love Dez, especially if Josh Norman's out again. And on the other side of the ball, Kirk Cousins is really good at home, typically struggles a little bit more on the road. He has a ton of receivers that he can throw to. We saw Jordan Reed. He looked good last week. He's lining up in the slot. I think he had 22 snaps in the slot last week. So he's back to being, a full-time guy. 4,700 for him, way too cheap, especially against a defense that can't defend the tight end. I think he'll end up being one of the more popular plays, but, I like him quite a bit. Terrell Pryor, I'm not sure if he violated a team rule or something, but he only played one snap in the first half and then 29 in the second half. But either way, you shouldn't be targeting him right now. Doxson's getting a lot more snaps, so is Crowder. Both of them are really cheap. I don't really trust them, but if you really need a cheap wide receiver, I'm certainly fine going there. And then this sets up as a perfect game for Chris Thompson. He's out-snapped Rob Kelly each of the last 2 weeks. Cowboys, one of the worst teams against the run and one of the worst teams defending running backs out of the backfield. So I love Thompson. Pretty much this whole Redskins offense. I think this is a blow-up spot for them.
Yeah, definitely a stackable game. So, Chop, your Cowboys look good against San Francisco. Does it continue here against the Washington Redskins in Washington?
Oh, yeah, easy money line right here. Easy money on the money line. Take the Cowboys on the road. Here's I would say Dak Prescott, great play this week, except for he's $100 more than Carson Wentz. It's hard to justify that. As good as Dak's been, I'd probably rather have Carson Wentz for $100 cheaper. So that's kind of where they got him on salary wise right now. That's a little hard to believe that he's already up there, but he's been good this year. So a little bit too high for me, though. I think he has a decent game, especially if Norman, like Derek said, if Norman is out, then Dez Bryant's a good play. If not, then you got to look elsewhere. And I think I'd look at Elliott again. Probably going to be his last game before a suspension, so no need to hold him back here. You're going to feed him all you want. And he had 2 nice games against him as a rookie last year against Washington. Each game, he crept up around 100 yards, had 3 total touchdowns, and caught some passes out of the backfield on him. So I think Elliott's perfectly in play, even at that high price tag. So on Washington's side, it's Jordan Reed. I remember this game was Thanksgiving last year, and Jordan Reed busted up his shoulder and still caught 95 yards and 2 touchdowns on Dallas. So he has got a decent history against Dallas. So Notorious is right, man. They really started to kind of get back to him last week. I think that's a fine play. And from the receiving core, I really want to push my chips in on Josh Dotson. He looked like he overtook Terrell Pryor now finally as the starting receiver there and going to get more snaps and targets. Just don't know if I can trust any of these guys. I think I would rather just trust Jordan Reed because it's the easier choice to make. But Terrell Pryor looks like he's out of here, man. Like I think he's on a 1-year cheap contract anyway. So it's not like they are committed to him for years down the road. I think they've had enough of him being so. I just don't think he's a disciplined wide receiver. He doesn't know the craft enough, man. He only started picking it up last year. So I think they've had enough of it. They're trying to make the playoffs, and it's going to mean getting their best guys on the field right now. And I think that's Dotson. So I wouldn't touch Terrell Pryor at all. But that's kind of the way I see that game going.
And he'll still have ownership because of the name. People know Terrell Pryor. He's a freak athlete, so people want to make it work. I think we want to make it work, but I agree with you. Dotson's out there. Crowder's not getting it done, but Jordan Reed, that's the connection. Kirk Cousins last season, they look great. I think we're going to see more of that. So love that call. Definitely one of my favorite tight end plays on the week. And love Zeke again. This Dallas offense looks great. So a lot of exposure for this game. If you don't have it, the currently winning is gonna shrink up pretty quick on you when this game starts off. So 2 more games. We got Sunday Night Football. This is an interesting game as well, guys. We got Steelers going into Detroit, Pittsburgh on the road. So we got to talk about that narrative. And then the Lions got to play without Golden Tate. Really like the spot for Marvin Jones, but Pittsburgh's defense has been pretty good, Chop. So Marvin Jones, is he almost a must-play with those targets? Can you avoid him? And then what do you do with Pittsburgh on the road here in Detroit?
Yeah, this is a good game for Sunday night. I would say I'll start off with Detroit. I think Stafford at home with a little bit of rest now is going to be fine. I wouldn't touch the running game, but yeah, I think you're right about the Marvin Jones. I mean, I just don't see how you get around it. I'd like to see if Galladay is healthy coming out of the off week. So Galladay may be a guy you could save money on, but I think Marvin Jones is perfectly fine. And for Pittsburgh, I mean, you got to like everybody again, right? Except for Martavis. We've used up our pour one outs, but boy, you could definitely I think you could pour one out for Martavis's Pittsburgh career, actually. So I think he's done. He's donezo. Smith-Schuster, still not getting any respect on DraftKings. Been under 4K this whole season, only 4K this week. He's clearly the number 2 passing option on this team out after Antonio Brown. This game shapes up to be a shootout in a dome stadium. Man, I want all the Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster on that particular slate. I think they both tear it up on the turf.
He's not getting any respect in life either. I read somebody stole his bike.
Jeez, terrible.
I mean, what's up with that, man? So there's a reward out if you know where Juju's bike is, you return that bad boy. So
So Martavis has it for sure.
Yeah, he's holding it ransom because he's better than Juju. So yeah, Martavis, I don't know what's going on there, but I agree. It could be definitely a pour one out on his Steelers career. So Derek, what do you got in this one? I think it's a very interesting game. Marvin Jones, like I said, 14 targets that last game. He's going to be a primary target for me. Steelers on the road here. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, so when you play the Thursday to Monday slate and you fade that Thursday game like we talked about, you want some exposure here. I love Le'Veon Bell. We talk about the workhorses like Zeke and LaShawn McCoy, but, I mean, Le'Veon has 137 touches in his last 4 games. The next closest is Jordan Howard, and he has 97. I mean, he has 40 more touches than the next closest guy in the entire NFL. Love him here. Always love him on the road. They tend to give him more work in the red zone. And, the touchdowns are going to come. They made a lot of weird decisions on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 last week. Don't expect that to be the case again here. I like Antonio Brown. He's going to see some Darius Slay, but, he's a guy that's going to win pretty much any matchup. Love the Juju Smith-Schuster call. 4K is just way too cheap for him. On the other side of the ball, I mean, the Pittsburgh defense has been pretty good this year. They're good against the run. They're good against the pass. It doesn't sound like Tate's going to play, so if you want to fire up Marvin Jones as the wide receiver 1, I'm fine with that. Definitely not touching Ebron. Galladay's still been banged up. So it's kind of an offense that, it seems like a good spot. I just don't know where to go.
Maybe some more Theo Riddick. TJ Jones, another name I think could be of interest here. So I think there's going to be a random Detroit guy, whether it's Galladay, Jones, Riddick, that comes out and has a big game here. And maybe a key to winning tournaments. So it sounds crazy, but I really think one of those guys going to have a big game. So as we go throughout the week, certainly a situation that I'm keeping an eye on. Don't forget, Le'Veon Bell went to high school in Ohio, played at Michigan State. A little narrative coming back to Michigan, so he's going to be fired up. But always one of the top plays, and even at that elevated price, get him in some lineups against this Lions team. All right, guys, let's wrap it up here with the games. We got Monday Night Football, Derek, Denver, Kansas City. Big game for both teams. Kansas City looked invincible. And come back down to earth a little bit here. Denver, what the hell are they doing? Another pour one out for the Den. I know we've poured one out for them about as much as we have for Martavis. This whole offense looks awful. So any chance for them here in Kansas City on Monday night?
For the Broncos, I don't really know. It sounds like Emmanuel Sanders might return. If he does, that's certainly going to help. But this is a tough spot. Chiefs play great defense at home. The Broncos' offense has just looked terrible. C.J. Anderson hasn't been able to get anything going on the ground. Simeon, can't really find any of his receivers other than Derby. Demaryius Thomas hasn't scored in 12 straight games. The only receiver that has a longer streak than that is Robert Woods. So, there's just not a lot to love here. I'm fine going back to Thomas at low ownership, especially in that 2-game slate that you're going to play, the primetime slate. I think his ownership will be lower just because he burned so many people last week. On the Chiefs side, Broncos been really good against the run. Last year they were great against the pass, struggled against the run, but they've really picked that up this season. Hunt is too cheap though. $7,500 for a workhorse. I'll always take volume over a matchup when it comes to a running back. I like him. And then I like Travis Kelce. We know the Broncos have a great secondary, but they really struggled to defend the tight ends. $6,800, more than reasonable for him.
All right, Chop, wrap us up. Denver, Kansas City, what do you got?
Denver, they're in a free fall, right? They're decent defense, but this offense is terrible with this quarterback. And Demaryius Thomas is a guy I would want to play, except for you look at his history, he hasn't done well. He didn't do good against this team last year in the 2 games. In general, last season, he only had 2 games over 100 yards all year long. He's only had 1 game this year over 100 yards. This is not a good quarterback, and it's bringing the whole offense down. So I don't know how much Denver I want on the road in a tough place like this. And Kansas City, I think I agree. You could load up on Kareem Hunt. Still a reasonable price tag. I think they should be working with a lead. And I think that's the way you want to go is just lock and load on Kareem Hunt on any short slate you're playing.
Yeah, or the long slate. People want to load up on the Thursday game, load up on the Monday game. It's your chance to use a guy like Kareem Hunt. So as of now, my Thursday to Monday builds, Kareem Hunt is in there, so I get that exposure to him. Hopefully other people play that Thursday game. But Denver looks terrible. I don't know what they're going to do. I've heard the words Brock Osweiler mentioned with this team. So Simeon's leash may be short, and they go to Osweiler, may get worse before it gets better. So we'll see what happens there. So let's move on. Let's get our Faith Hills, our bold calls, and we'll wrap it up, keeping it under an hour here. Quick, to the point. So, Chop, Faith Hill, you got faith in, whether he burned you last week, earlier in the season, whatever it may be, a guy that you're willing to go back to this week and moving forward.
Yeah, this guy's pretty much burned me almost all year long. But I think I'm going to go ahead and give him another shot here, plant my flag this week, and lock in Alshon Jeffrey against San Francisco. If he can't get it going against this bad secondary, then I don't have a whole lot of hope for Alshon this year. And so this is the prime spot for him to get fed some targets here. I'm going to lock in Alshon this week.
Yeah, and I saw him. We had a little draft matchup, Chop. I saw you creeping up on me with some Alshon.
Come on, Alshon.
So
just give me a good game. Give me a good game, and I don't have to worry about qualifying for this dang thing. I got to go try to do another qualifier because of that terrible game.
Yeah, he definitely is one of my favorite plays in that game. So sweating that one a little bit, but I think that's a good one. He's just had some tough matchups. So definitely an offense we can load up on this week in Philadelphia. Derek, Faith Hill for Week 8. What do you got?
Love the Alshon call. I'm going to go with Julio Jones. Been burning me all season, and last week finally had a big game, and he wasn't in the main slate on DraftKings, so that was a little bitter on my end. But 8,400, definitely reasonable. He gets to face a burnable Jets secondary. They finally started feeding him some targets. They finally gave him a couple red zone looks, and good things happen when they do. So Julio Jones is going to be my Faith Hill.
Love it. Love it. That late touchdown saved me some money in some cash games. So I'm going to stay strong with Julio as well. Probably the only guy in that game, as far as the Atlanta side, that I'm interested in early on. I'm going to go off the board. Cheap running back. The guy is phenomenal. He never seems to be on the field enough. I'm going to keep the faith, guys, with Tariq Cohen. I mean, this guy's too good to not play. You get him the ball, you get the ball in his hands, good things happen. I don't know why John Fox can't see that, but this week in New Orleans, they may not have a choice but to get this guy involved. So I think a lot of people have been burned by him. Love the talent, love the price, 4,600. Love this matchup against New Orleans. So Tariq Cohen, my Faith Hill play for Week 8. All right, bold call time, and then we will wrap it up here for the Week 8 DFS OGs pod. Derek, let's start with you. You got a bold call for Week 8, and don't mention the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, my bold calls have been terrible. My third and wrong is my bold calls all season.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think I've had Crowell, I've had Kaiser, I've had Hogan. I don't know why I picked the Browns there.
Yeah, too much Browns. So let's stay away from Cleveland.
Right.
What do you got?
I'm gonna go Carolina Panthers and Buccaneers. They combined to score over 55 points, which is 10 more than the over/under. And Cam Newton and Jameis Winston both throw for over 300 yards.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Potential shootout there. All right, Chop, bold call. I know you're always ready with something. What do you got?
Oh, he kind of stole a little bit of what I'm kind of almost going opposite of him here. My bold call is that Doug Martin, if things work out right in this game script, Doug Martin becomes a top 5 running back this week. It is contingent on Luke Kuechly being out again with a concussion, but Doug Martin has seen his carries rise each week. He's been in there since he's been healthy for the last 3 weeks, up to 20 carries last week. Kuechly being out makes this defense extremely susceptible to the run. Doug Martin, I think, is primed to finally have a breakout game. So I like Doug Martin in that game if things work out right for him.
All right, so game stack. That's what you guys are saying in that one. My bold call, I think the Chargers go into New England and win this game on the right arm of Phillip Rivers. I think he goes for 350 plus 3 touchdowns in this game. Phillip Rivers finishes as a top 3 quarterback, and the Chargers go in and beat the Patriots. So that'll wrap us up for Week 8, guys. Any final thoughts here? It's a smaller slate. You got an interesting longer slate here if you're playing the full week, but any final thoughts on the week or whatever the hell you want to discuss before we get out of here for Week 8?
The season's almost halfway over, so enjoy fantasy football while you have it. Even if you're tilting some of your lineups, Sundays are the best. So yeah, just keep at it, and we're gonna have some big weeks eventually.
Damn, Derek, I'm going to have to pour one out for that. Halfway through the season is a depressing thought. You wait all season long, it comes, and it goes so quick. So enjoy it. Like you said, Chop, final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, there's a tendency to want to complain about the schedule here and all the bye weeks, but just think about the fact that between these next couple of weeks, getting the byes out of the way, for the rest of the season, we're going to have some very nice main slates with limited teams off. So enjoy this week and don't get too caught up in all the buys and the shorter slate. It'll get back to normal here pretty soon.
It is what it is. This is what we got to work with. So we know the middle of the season, a lot of bye weeks. So still got 9 games on that main slate. If you don't like that, play the Thursday through Monday. You get 13 games. But all right, that'll do it here. Again, I'm going to echo these guys' thoughts. Have fun. Enjoy the season.
I know, man, I hate to cut you off right there, man.
Hey, that's all right, man. You got something important.
Some late breaking news here on Twitter that I find hilarious at 9:34 on a Tuesday night. NBA is back because Anthony Davis is questionable to return Tuesday after 20 minutes of game time. Oh, this is the NBA's back, baby. I love it.
So Twitter's going to be on full-on Anthony Davis tilt, Jimmy Butler tilt, DraftKings not having the Sunday night game tilt. Twitter's going to be a blaze here tonight and tomorrow. So, NBA, welcome back. So, all right, we're going to get out of here, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys got any questions, hit us up in the comment section. Hit us on Twitter, at HeadChopper, at RG_Notorious, at Beermakersfan. For my boys, Chop, Noto, I am Beer. Again, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you right back here talking everything Week 9. Good luck, guys.